For my final project, I have researched fluency instruction and the benefits of teaching fluency in the classroom. My project mostly focused with elementary students, but it could be used in older grades. The research that I found when I searched was mostly in younger grades, but if you have a struggling reader, it could be used in older grades. Through this presentation, I will explain what fluency is, why fluency is important, different strategies that could help improve fluency with struggling readers, and then at the end, I will focus on paired or partner reading as a strategy to use in the classroom with elementary students. So what is fluency? Fluency is one of the critical factors necessary for reading comprehension according to the National Reading Panel. This was found in the Stevens, Walker, and Bond article that was published in 2016. Fluency is a critical key factor that is necessary for students to have for reading comprehension. If students are fluent readers, they are able to then comprehend what they are reading. Reading fluency is defined as the ability to read text quickly and accurately with few mistakes and little effort, and to read expressively with appropriate pausing, phrasing, and articulation. That's found again in another published in 2016 article by Lee and Yoon. Reading fluency allows the students to read quickly and not focus on word for word in a passage. As they are reading fluently, they are able to start reading to learn and stop focusing on learning to read, which, as you know, in the older grades, it is essential to get to for comprehension. They have to be able to read for comprehension as they get to the older grades and stop looking at word for word, focusing on how to read the word. Why is fluency important? Fluency is viewed as an important goal of reading instruction. It is one of the 5 factors in reading. By taking time to focus on fluency, it in turn helps with comprehension and students' overall reading. Samuels, in 1979, described fluency as the fundamental link between oral reading fluency and increased comprehension by explaining that students who can read text fluently without halting or stopping can attend to comprehension more. Again, as they start learning to read and stop learning, as they start reading to learn, and stop learning to read, which will help in the older grades with more advanced texts. So it's going back to, for the comprehension, being a fluent reader will help in their comprehension by in older grades because they're starting to look at phrases, and they're not so focused on sounding out a word and not so focused on just reading the word and getting through the passage. They're actually excited to read. So why is fluency important? Continued. Fluency also allows students to pay less attention to what they are reading and more attention to learning what they are reading. When students are fluent readers, they are taking less time to focus on the text and more time on what they are reading. This helps bring up their comprehension skills. As teachers, we need to help our students become more fluent readers, and there are many strategies to help with this. We are doing a disservice to our students if we are not helping them read. We need to start focusing on students' fluency so not as many students are low in reading as they get to older grades. We've seen in this class how more and more students are becoming, as they get older, are becoming lower in reading. So if we try to catch it early enough, we will be able, by helping their fluency increase, we will be able to get them to be higher readers and more fluent readers in the older grades. So there are many strategies to help in reading fluency, but ones that I have found from week 5 in this class on reading rockets are audio assisted reading, choral reading, paired or partner reading, which is what I will be focusing later on in this presentation, reader's theater, shared reading, and then timed repeated readings. Also at the end of this presentation, I have linked on the Reading Rockets website for paired or partner reading, but you can also go in and explore to see some of the other strategies to help with fluency that are mentioned here. So what is repeated reading? Repeated reading is a fluency building activity that consists of reading a short, meaningful passage several times. These passages are read until a desired point of fluency has been reached, and from there you move on to another passage. Decoding is a basic skill in reading that is essential to success. Students should be able to decode words and phrases with a high degree of accuracy. Repeated readings help students get to reading whole phrases at a time and not word for word. Students cannot achieve reading fluency until they understand the initial word form and are able to read or sound out words some. Again, if they can't read if they only know letters and they don't know their letter sounds, they will not be able to do fluency. They have to have a basic understanding of reading, and how words are put together for them to become fluent readers. Once they have that, then you are able to do repeated readings with them, with the student, and they should start to increase in that reading, so then you can move on to a new passage. During repeated reading, students read a simplified text repeatedly to help automatize word recognition, leaving more cognitive resources for higher order comprehension processes. This helps especially as students get to older grades and need to read more difficult passages and stories. It allows students to stop sounding out each word and start looking at the phrases in the sentence and passage. When students sound out each word, they start to focus more on sounding out the word than what the passage is actually saying. Research for repeated reading. I searched Derek for research on repeated reading and found studies that implemented repeated reading in multiple grades, but mostly 1st grade through 5th grade was the focus. I've looked at 2 specific studies that show repeated reading as a helpful strategy to implement in the classroom. I will get to what they found and discussed in these articles in a little bit. Repeated reading is done for students who understand initial word development but are struggling in fluency in their grade level. This is mostly done in elementary grades, but I could see it being used as an intervention in older grades. There were a few studies on it that I was looking at, but not as many as there were for the younger elementary grades. If students are really struggling in reading, though, it is another option to do in the older grades. These studies that I found in my research focus more in elementary grades and all seem to say that repeated reading has helped students improve in their fluency. In a Bennett, Gardner, Ramath, and Council article, it states that, in general, the results of this synthesis show that repeated reading is associated with positive outcomes in reading rate, accuracy, and comprehension. It is an effective intervention for improving reading fluency for students with learning disabilities. Obviously, this study focused on reading fluency with students with a specific learning disability. This article was the 2nd grade urban learners' preliminary findings for computer-assisted, culturally relevant repeated reading intervention. So in that article, it was discussing how students specifically with learning disabilities in an urban school improved with these repeated readings. This study really helped me, especially for my current teaching location as an urban school. So it helped to prove that these do need to be in every classroom, helping these students learn to read. In another study, The Effects of Repeated Reading on Reading Fluency for Students with Reading Disabilities, a meta-analysis article, the results of the study are consistent with prior findings supporting the effects of repeated reading interventions on reading fluency for students with a reading disability. So the other one was a learning disability, and then this is an actual just reading disability. The article suggests that the importance of repeating reading instruction the article suggests that the importance of repeated reading instruction is crucial into a classroom. Sorry about that. So how to implement repeated reading. During repeated reading, a student will read a passage or a story multiple times to help increase fluency. As students become more fluent in their reading, the passages should increase in difficulty. Repeated readings can be done with a teacher, another student, a parent, or an educational aide, or really any adult who has been trained in repeated readings. As long as you have taught them how to do repeated readings and understand it, they could do repeated readings. I know in my school we have grandmas that come in and help us, and they have started to be taught how to do repeated readings, and it's been helping when a teacher doesn't get a time to do that, so then at least those lower readers are getting repeated reading every day. Students should be given immediate feedback to how they are performing on this repeated readings. This helps the students grow in their reading and is an essential part of repeated reading. The great thing about repeated reading is that they are able to see the words that they missed incorrectly right away, and they are able to get feedback on how they are doing, so that for the next time they know what to work on. All right, paired or partner reading. This is just one strategy that I found to be very interesting. I have implemented into a classroom in different ways, but the way that I found, and I actually did it for one of the video lessons for this class, was very helpful. So, paired or partner reading is a long, recognized, effective approach to supporting reading in schools. It helps to build relationships and encourages self-esteem and motivation. Students gain confidence, and research suggests that fluency and accuracy improve. Students pair with another student or a teacher, and they take turns reading independently or together. But this could be done with anyone if they have been trained in paired or partner reading and know how to do it. When pairing up students, make a list in order from highest to lowest according to the reading ability. Divide that list in half and place the top student in the first list or in the highest reading ability with the first person in the lowest reading ability. And then continue that way down until you get to your last students. Again, this is a suggested way to divide your students up, but as a teacher, you know who can work together and who cannot work together. We know that sometimes students just do not get along and that they cannot be together, so you have to use your teacher, you have to use yourself, you have to decide what would be best. If you decide that that student is not best with that student, then you need to mix and match so it works for you in the classroom. Paired or partner reading in the classroom can be done very easily, and it does not have to be very long. When you are doing paired or partner reading in the classroom, you have to introduce the students to the new strategy. And when you introduce the strategy, you have to establish a routine, you have to teach an error correction procedure, and then you have to model the strategy. As we know, if you are if you teach younger students, you have to model a new strategy multiple times, so this is very important to do when teaching paired or partner reading. It is also important to teach the students how to give error correction nicely and give excellent and honest feedback. This is what will really help the low readers in the class become more fluent readers. I know in my school setting, we have to talk about compliments a lot, and we have to talk about how to be nice to one another when we're working together. So this is something that you have to hit heavy on. You also have to practice it a lot with these students and practice that routine until they get used to it. Ask students to begin reading in pairs and adjust the speed to what students need. As you are modeling the strategy and practicing the strategy, you will be able to see how you need to adjust the speed of the reading and activity. A way to implement into the classroom is for the paired students who are reading to start reading together. Then the lower fluent reader can tap the higher fluent reader to read independently. I just did this right on the hand. And then as the low reader misses more words, the higher readers can start to join in for support. Again, as you're reading the passage, if that lower reader is starting to feel more comfortable, and if they could just tap the hand again, and the higher reader will stop but still follow along and still help and support as they need it. Again, I did this with one of my lessons and it worked really well. I was amazed at how well the student did with reading the passage by the third time. Ours was a 20-minute video, so I had the student read it 3 times, which took up about 20 minutes. And the first time the student did it, I was reading a lot of it. But the second time, you could see her confidence start to go up, so she started tapping me out a lot more. And then I followed along, and as she struggled with a word for more than 3 seconds, or if she started missing multiple words, I started to come in for support. And by that third time, she was getting most of the words correct that she had missed before. And she was reading most of the passage by herself, so she was doing very well with it. She was also extremely excited to go tell her teacher on how well she did it. I followed up along with that week, and we practiced some more so that she was still getting it, but we were ready to move on to another passage. So it can be done very easily into the classroom. You could just read it once if you wanted it to, and then the next day have them read it again, because that's still the repeated readings. I suggest doing it more than once that day just to help build their confidence for this paired or partner reading. You could do it twice a day, or twice, have them read it twice and then move it on for the next day too. So there's a couple of paired or reading resources that I found. The first one was that Reading Rockets that we were introduced back to in week 5 of our class. And then the other one is an Intervention Central, that's where I learned about the tapping the student out that I found to be very helpful with my student. So those are 2 websites that you can go to that, again, are very helpful when you're trying to implement paired or partner reading. I hope you liked this presentation and are able to start using Fluency in your classroom, and especially start using paired or partner reading into the classroom. Thanks.